exchange in education and experiences with the use of COIL, where we will first have 2 introductions before there will be a conversation between the speakers. So there will be room for questions, so please write your questions in the chat, preferably in English if you can. So the first contribution is from Western Norway University of Applied Sciences, HVL, and we will meet Sigrun Breisti, Assistant Professor and International Academic Coordinator at the Department of Health and Caring Sciences, and Bente Kvilhaugsvik, Associate Professor at the same department. And they both teach bachelor student in nursing. So they will talk about their experiences with COIL and connecting nursing students at Stord and in Madagascar. So Sigrun and Bente, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much. Bente, you will start with sharing our presentation.
Mm-hmm. I think they would, yes, so I can switch the slide then, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think they must give me
the remote control.
Yeah.
Yes. But then we can, in the meantime, say thank you for inviting us to this Erasmusseminar. And I can also mention that beside from being assistant professor in nursing science, I also work as an international coordinator for our students so that they can go on mobilization and exchange.
Yes. Yes, and I'm a leader of the subjects in nursing and social sciences in the nursing program in Campus Stord. So that's where we have our tilhørighet.
Yeah. But we also wanted to ask you, Lene, because we are teachers and we love to talk. So when there's 3 minutes left, can you give us a sign?
Will do, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have had a very nice opportunity to test out collaborative online international learning, the COIL tool in education, and in this project we have used the learning outcomes for students in the 4th semester of their education, where students were to learn about other cultures and have the possibility to gain cultural competence. So that was our aim. And then you came in, Sigrun, and said, shouldn't we do that in COIL in an international learning and join international partners, and we can still have the same learning outcome in mind. So that was the start.
So let's tell everybody what COIL is.
Yes, we could do that.
Yes.
I cannot change the picture, so could you, Lena, do that for us?
I think we may have a back office here that will do that for him, for you.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
It's always technical challenges.
Yes, we have done some research, or we are doing some research on this project, so we can say that first, and then we will tell you what COIL is. We have conducted focus group interviews with nursing students from Stord and nursing students from Madagascar, and with teachers from both Stord and Madagascar. And we're also planning a new COIL in the spring of 2021. And here Madagascar partners and Erasmus partners hopefully will join us in the project. So could you switch the slide again? Thank you. Would you tell about that, Sigrun?
Yes. So what is a COIL? A COIL stands for Collaborative Online International Learning, and it's a kind of virtual exchange between our students from 2 collaborative faculties. So the collaborative part stands for that it's a collaboration both between the academic staff in developing a project. So for instance, we developed the tasks for our students in nursing for a global health together with the teachers from Madagascar. And the students, they have to collaborate on the task itself. Online speaks for itself, it's all digital. International means because it's a collaboration between 2 or more international partners. And we had 1 partner this time, but for the spring we have invited several Erasmus partners, so then we're going to collaborate with many nationalities. And yes, and the learning is because this is not just an additional program so that you will get to know somebody from another country, but the learning outcomes we take from the study program. So it's instead of something else. So that's very short what COIL is. Yes, so next slide. And shall I take this? Or
yeah, you can do it. You can start, Sigrun.
Because we have a list that's very long when it comes to the benefits, but we've chosen to present these for you. The greatest benefit in these times is that it opens for internationalization of the study program. And here at our campus at Stord, all our students will have international opportunity because 100% is going through this program now. So everybody gets international view.
We could say something about that, Sigrun, because we didn't plan that all of the students in the study program in the 4th semester were going to have a COIL but we had a plan that a part of the students would go into the project because this was the first time we did it. But then we had obstacles when it came to ordinary education in cultural competence. And then we decided to let all of our students go into COIL, and that made it 100% of our students then.
And from now on, it will always be 100% here. And also now that there's the COVID-19 that prohibits our students from going abroad on exchange, this gives us the opportunity to keep on collaborating with our international partners. We also get an increased knowledge of digital educational tools, increased intercultural competence, both for teachers and students. And then there's also the possibility for interprofessional learning. It doesn't necessarily have to be nurses communicating with nurses. It could also be other health professions or other professions in general. And then it's the last opportunity that we want to share. It's the stepping stone for research collaboration. Because now we get to know the staff, the academic staff. We have to work close. And then we also share our interest areas.
And the article we are working on right now is together with one of the partners at Madagascar. So that's a very good opportunity for us. Yeah.
But then on the next slides, I think we're going to give a presentation of what did we actually do.
Yeah, maybe you should,
Yes. So here we see Madagascar, a big island on the west coast of Africa. And here we first we made an agreement on exchange with a school on Madagascar. So we went to go there. Next slide. So this is a picture from autumn 2019. We went to Madagascar to meet our partners at the nursing academy. And at that point, we had no idea we would do a digital cooperation. But as we came home, next slide, we had a discussion that, it would be great if our students would meet some Malagasy students before they went to Madagascar. And what we did at that point, Torunn Kittelsen on the right side of both pictures, she's the international advisor in our campus or institution. And our institution wanted to focus on digital exchange. And then we invited in Bente, who is here with now, because she had the academic responsibility for the global health in nursing.
For cultural
social
competence.
Sciences.
Yeah.
Yes.
And internationalization is in that. It's easy to put it in there.
And the man on the picture is the
leader of the nursing program at Stord,
Yes.
Leif Steinar Alfsvåg.
Yes. It's just to illustrate that to do this COIL, it's good to collaborate, both academic staff and the international people. So then we just, okay, we want to do this. And we did it as simple as you can see on next slide. We made a phone call, or first an email and then a phone call on Skype and Facebook. Do you want to join us in a collaborative partnership on doing this? And it's a good way to test out, would it work digitally? First picture, you can see we missed out the camera. But that simple it is. Just ask the academic staff, are you interested in doing a digital cooperation with us? And of course they said yes.
And
So
we had several partners from the start, Sigrun.
Yes,
and there were more universities that said that yes, they wanted to collaborate with us on COIL, but as the pandemic came, they also had to say that we can't do it. But of all the programs, then the study programs and other countries, and Madagascar said yes, we keep in touch and we will plan the COIL together with you.
And it's fantastic.
Quite surprised that was possible.
Poorest country in the world. Yes, but they had some obstacles too. The school closed just like in Norway, and not everybody has a computer at home. So they chose the students who had a mobile telephone. And they said, can we then meet on Facebook? Can we use Facebook as a digital platform for our students in the higher education to communicate? And yes, that's what we did. But then on this slide, you will see a suggestion topic and assigned team. We collaborated with the Malagasy teachers. We found the common learning goals that we had in our educations, and we made tasks. So here's one of the tasks. The students had to discuss global child health, and in the end they were asked to make a presentation. But this was just an example. You can do anything. It could be ethics, we could have done anatomy, simulation, anything. But this was what we chose. And on the next slide,
yes. And it was Stephanie Jonathan who made the tasks. And we, when we saw it, we said, oh yes, that's good. That's good for both them and us.
Yes.
And then the students, first there is a Facebook group for all of the students in the project and the teachers. And after that, there is a Facebook group for each international group. So there were, I think it was 4 Norwegian students in each group and 2 Malagasy students. And they presented themselves to each other. And here's one of the students, one of the Stord student who presents herself in her national costume and presenting the campus area. And then we will, would you say something more?
No, I just wanted to say next slide.
Yeah.
Yes. And here we have same introduction from a Malagasy student. And at first you can think, oh, they're just presenting themselves, it's a picture. But if you read the text, the student will present themselves as, oh, we are very grateful for having this education. It's a gift from God. I can't read it closely, but something like that. And that also gives the students a cultural aspect. And this was just the first part. Introduce yourself to each other, get to know each other.
Already in the presentation, they had a meeting with another culture.
And if you see our next slide, it was time to start to focus on the projects. And here is Stephanie Jonathan that's asking the students, okay, now it's time to start that you discuss the task you had about child health. The students were supposed to start discussing themselves, but some needed some help to get going. And here you can see on the slide that it had 35 comments, students sharing information, asking each other questions. They're pressing likes and emojis with crying face to show that they react. And they also shared pictures and statistics and articles. It's a good way to do that on Facebook. So they started discussing, and if you go to the next slide, one click, they started discussing this about vaccination. And do you remember, Bente, what the big discussion was about?
Yes,
Yes.
The big question was about why don't you vaccinate your children in Madagascar? And the Malagasy students said that, oh no, they're so lazy, they don't vaccinate their children. And we have to dig into that story. What was it about?
Yes, because they told each other that vaccination is free both in Norway and Madagascar, so why aren't they vaccinated in Madagascar? And the Norwegian students reacted, how can they say that they're lazy? Don't they know enough? But then they started sharing pictures. So if you do another click on the PowerPoint, there you could see vaccinations was brought by foot to a vaccination health center. And they gotten to know that if you wanted to vaccinate yourself, you might have to walk 10 hours by foot and leave your other 5-10 children at home. And then they started opening, okay, it's not that easy to just take your child in the car and go to the healthcare center, even though vaccination was for free. So it opened a bigger understanding, first discussing some hints, and then the pictures, we start to understand. We have 3 minutes left, and I think we're gonna make it by this.
So we have, is it one more slide?
Yeah.
So what you need, what you need to do COIL, you need, and I saw some of the comments in the comment box, but and I might be able to answer some. You need to have a partner. We didn't have the partnership was made by email, so it wasn't that. Of course, it's formal, but it's easy to make an agreement with other partners.
And now that we're making new Erasmus cooperations here, we're using our existing Erasmus agreements, avtaler, partnerships, because in them it says that it's an agreement on blended mobility. So it's both digital and it's both exchange. So we're not have to write new formal agreements, but we're using the ones we have. And it's a phone call. So we're having a meeting tomorrow actually with many of our Erasmus partners. We just send it out, invitation on Zoom. Do you want to meet with us and talk about COIL?
Then you have to make a project together and use the existing learning outcomes in that program. And I think it's possible to have different learning outcomes and still be able to fulfill the learning outcomes for your own program. That's also what we do when we do interprofessional education. And they often have different learning outcomes, but we still can make a project together. You need resources and tools, and I think we will hear a lot about possibilities in the next 15 minutes.
Yes, and maybe we were a bit Facebook. Many people will react. Can you use Facebook in higher education? Isn't that very unprofessional? So I think there will be many reactions to that. We can say some a bit about maybe in the discussion afterwards. But the idea is to use tools that are available for the students and that are easy to use
and that are free.
Yes, and there are so many possibilities. Of course, if both schools have accessibility to the same platform. And then it's the discussion, Bente. Do we need to do it asynchront or synchront? Does it matter?
We could discuss it afterwards.
So should we do it asynchront? We did choose to do asynchronous communication.
Yes, and that was very good.
It was, even though we thought, oh no, at the beginning, it will be, but it was the option we had. When it comes to the time frame, there are research saying that a COIL should be minimum 4 weeks. And that's because it takes time to establish contact. And it's also what we experienced, Bente. Our project was just a few days from 4 weeks. And it could not have been shorter. The students was just about to get to know each other and warming up. And now our time is up.
Yes, but and the last point there, it is necessary that they have an assessment to do because otherwise some of the students can quit in the middle of what we're doing. So that's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this and sharing your experience. Very exciting. And we will have time for more discussions and questions later. But I now want to present our next presenter, who is Laurie Blair. She has 7 years experience with online and blended learning, and now mainly works on planning and designing the creation and/or conversion of courses, and then lead the teaching team through the transmission process of going online. So Laurie has worked with the University of Bergen since 2016, and she will present her experiences from 2 projects that she has worked on. One Erasmus Plus project, and the other converting UIB's international summer school to a virtual summer school. So please, Laurie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, that was a very interesting presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, I can't share the slides either. Oh, there we are. Thank you. So yes, I've worked for many years in online and blended learning solutions, teaching and creating. I've been working with the University of Bergen since 2016 on an Erasmus project, which I'll be talking more about. But I came back this year. So this year we had a project forced by the whole COVID situation. The summer research school at Bergen, we had to go online. There was no other choice. We had 5 weeks to put 6 PhD courses online, but I had a great team of over 35 helpers who were educators, who were administrators, technical help, communications team, and everyone really came together, and it was a very successful program, so much so that many of the students want to come back next year. They asked if we would do it online next year, again, different topics, and we have decided that that is the way to go. Now I'm also putting some courses online for the Centre for International Health at Bergen also. So Erasmus Plus, this was a collaboration between 3 universities in 3 different countries. So Queen Margaret in Edinburgh, Bergen University, and the Royal Tropical Institute in Amsterdam. It was all online, a 1 year's master's programme, but students were based, or some students were based for 3 months at each of the universities. So it was quite interesting in that respect. And they completed all the modules and their thesis virtually through an online learning at individual partner institutes. So we had 3 different learning platforms. So the students did use WhatsApp and Facebook also to communicate with each other, especially in their learning groups. But we also had the university platforms of Canvas, Moodle and Blackboard. So there were challenges in that I had to learn 2 new platforms. I was used to Blackboard at that time because I'd been working at Queen Margaret University. And then the students had to flip between each of them each time they did a different module. So that was really interesting, but we managed it. Okay, I think the key to that was me doing all the creative side of it so that it flowed well and everything looked similar, if not exactly the same. Our teachers were from and based in several countries. One of the Queen Margaret teachers who works there was based in Kenya. So it was very international, and obviously the students were from all over the world. They were mostly health professionals, and as I said, some of them were in the university, but many of them were also working in clinics and hospitals. So it was a very fast-paced, full-time, intensive course. They literally had, I think it was between 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the module, of doing a full-time course and getting that module done, full 30 ECT equivalent module, and then they moved directly onto the next module, and they sometimes still had the assessment to do for the previous one. So the key to all of that, really, the first thing they needed to do is to create a community of learners. Because a lot of teachers say, how do we do this? I can't understand how we can get students to work together. The way that I work is to get them to create this community of learners. So students are really taking ownership for their own learning, and they will work together and learn from each other with facilitation from us, of course, with all the resources and the activities and tools that they need to work with. But they really do create this supportive environment in their community. So we get them to socialise even before the course starts. So we open the course a week early and they can socialise, get to know each other, do their induction, learn how to use the systems, make sure their logins work. We set expectations, very important. And we have live session, or at least one live session, to introduce the educators. So they can see a face, they can see who they're going to be working with. So here's a sample shot of a kind of social cafe that we start before the course begins. So we ask the student to introduce themselves and to say where they're from. This is actually from the summer school, because I don't have as much access to the old Erasmus course now. So yeah, you can see here, hopefully you can read some of these. Students are from all over the world. We ask them to talk about their research projects. They're all PhD students, and what they're interested in. And you can see that students really do engage in it. Some of them have their photos. We do ask for them all to put their photos up, because then it makes it more personal and more real, I guess. When I'm starting to design the course with the educators, a starting point is to look at what they currently have. So what tools do we have? What resources? What materials? Libraries are great resources. Often nowadays there's lots of ebooks. And by the way, this Erasmus Plus project was planned. It wasn't obviously in COVID time, so we had quite a bit of time to do that. Plus, a minus of that is when teachers have plenty of time, they tend to leave things to last minute. And then that gets me working very hard for many, many hours just before the course is about to open. If they work well and they work, you know, with a view that let's get things done now, then we have plenty of time to organise it. So yes, so Laurie, back to current resources, lectures that they may already have for conversion to either video recorded lectures or just simple narrated lectures, which work just as well. Students are quite happy just to hear voice and not see face. Online journals and websites are already available. Using discussion forums on your platform. So this is a thing where people, you've seen that in the introduction, just the same as that. You can set up case studies, have questions, ask students to critically analyse. And then there's already videos available on YouTube and Disney and other platforms by many acclaimed academics. And you may even have some specialists in the subject that you teach that has already got some videos of maybe a conference that they've spoken at. We used a lot of them in the summer school this year and some of them in the Erasmus project. And their own papers, their videos, as I said, and some of them have ebooks and blogs, so they can be good to follow online. And you can use exam papers that you currently have. You can create discussion questions or quizzes with them. And yes, use of social media sites. We actually really encourage students to connect in many ways. This is good for their current learning, but also really good for their future, especially at PhD level. They're kind of in the field that they're, you know, they've found their area, and it's good to make these networks, these connections with each other. So then we would look at creating new resources. So we might think about having new recorded or narrated lectures. It's a chance to really look at your course and think, how can we make this better? How can we improve the quality of it? We've maybe not looked at it for a few years now, apart from just updating legislation and things like that. So it's a real opportunity. You can bring in your experts to do live or recorded interviews. And you can have recorded screen captures. There's lots of technology available now that allows you to do that. That's really good for things where students might need to learn how to use data or programs. So you can make use of quizzes. Most of the platforms have a quiz facility. You can actually do that on YouTube. So if you have a YouTube video, if you've got any lecture, you can put it onto YouTube if you've recorded it. And then you can add in quizzes throughout the lecture. It's very simple to do. And then of course meetings. So it's good to have synchronous meetings. Students really like that live connection. What I would say though is also record it so that if students in different time zones can't make it, or perhaps someone's ill or just can't get to internet at that time, at least it's there. It's also useful because students can then look back and see, you know, what did they miss in that lecture? Instead of it being just a live lecture where they have to take all that information in, if they're reflective learners, they might like to go back and listen and watch it again. And you can bring in group work. Zoom is a fantastic tool, as I'm sure you've all learned. So it really blends itself well to group work. You can have breakout rooms. You can give students, you know, the opportunity to have their own Zoom meetings between themselves to work on things like presentations of research findings. So these are a good way for students to learn if you give them a topic to research and they have to come back and present it. And of course, you can use peer review for that. So it's not all up to you to kind of give some feedback, and that can be formative or summative. So I'm just waiting for it to go forward. It seems to be stuck. Thank you. So here's some of the other activities that we use. This was in the summer school because I couldn't get all the Erasmus Plus. So this was one on democracy for media. So you can see this would be laid out in this way. So this would be the first page. Students would come on, they'd have a lecture. So it's a recorded lecture with the lecturer's face at the side and then some slides there. It's around about 20 minutes, which is really the kind of optimal time to have a lecture for. Any longer than that, you lose the students' concentration. And then they move on and they are asked to do some reading for the afternoon session. So this was first thing in the morning, please read. Sorry, can we just go back? Oh, actually, no, I can just use this slide, it's okay. So similar idea, they have the video, then they have another video, and you can see the words here. This is actually from qualitative research. This is the Erasmus project, and it's still running. So all of the courses that we created during the Erasmus project are still running today. So that was started in 2016. They're still running today, and they have been each year. It's not because of COVID, because they were so successful and students really enjoyed them. The feedback was excellent. So yes, so they move on to video, then they do some reading, and then they're going to do discussion activities. So they have a question to answer, and they have to do some critical analysis, and then post up their answers on the discussion forum, and then discuss it between them. Okay, move on. It's not allowing me to do it again. Next slide. Thank you. So here's another critical thinking exercise. So they were to consider the purpose of the study, so the question, how it was carried out, and whether the question was answered. And then they're asked to create their own question, and they're going to present that. So the whole qualitative research they're building up. So they're creating a design, proposal, then a design, and then question, and then moving, to presenting all of that. Okay, can I have the next slide, please? And here's one for the TB course, which was also part of the Erasmus project, still running today, very popular. They used a lot of quizzes in their course. And as you can see, this is just to show you that you can use photographs, you can use anything, you can upload documents on quizzes. So it's a really useful tool and makes it more real, I guess. Thank you, next slide. Assessment methods, there are lots that you can use. So the quizzes can be used throughout. In the TB course, they're graded all the way through, small grade, and then they have another exam at the end. You can use the presentations and they can be graded by yourselves or by their peers. And you can use case study questions on the discussion forums. So all the forums can also be graded. You can even use the discussions as participation marks. So just to encourage students to keep working and to keep actually communicating and taking part in the discussions, you can have a small grade for participation. And again, you can use peer review. And then to make sure it's the students that are doing the work, you have live vivas. If you're doing an online exam, then they know that you don't have to do them, but you can threaten them with the vivas so that they know they will be actually appearing live. Next slide, please. So the benefits, I'll let you read these, it'll be quicker. There are plenty of benefits. And next slide, please. So good way to set them, expectations before the course begins. Make sure you do that, communicate clearly and timely, have a range of good quality activities to suit all learning styles. Teaching presence is established early on, so a live Zoom is very important, or Skype or whatever you're using. The team that are behind the scenes are so vital. The administration team are one of the most vital things that we need. We need the moderator, which is what Lynn is doing today, especially when you're going live, and make sure educators are comfortable with the technology. Okay, next slide, please. There's some more valuable opportunities for creating sustainable courses. As I said, they're working now, they're still using these courses. So it works. I think there's one more slide, perhaps. I should remember. Yes, some of the tools that we have, and I think Lynn is going to put these links in. So I did a handbook from the outcomes of the Erasmus project, the feedback from the students, and there's a digital roadmap, which is great for helping you to create new courses. So we're going to share those. And then I think one more slide. Yes, discussion time. Okay, so I think now we're going to discuss each of our presentations between us. We have some questions for each other, and then we'll answer the questions that you have posted. So one of my questions that I have for Sigrun and Bente was that I think it was fantastic that you used Facebook, and it's very, you know, you can use, everyone can access it at the moment. Although there is problems with that in China, I know, because I've worked with Chinese colleagues and they don't have access to it. So I was just wondering if you were planning to use different platforms in your next project.
That was what I was going to ask you as well. I think that's a good discussion. What platforms can we use if we are not going to use Facebook? Or are we able to have students into the Norwegian platform that our students use, and can we invite other partners who don't have ordinarily don't have access to that platform? I know that we have done bridges between university colleges and universities in earlier projects when we have been working with interprofessional learning, but that has been with Norwegian collaborators. And I don't know, is it okay if I ask you what experiences you have with different platforms? So I think that's a good discussion.
Yeah, well, we have, for different projects we've had, and some of them we have given students limited access, so they have access only to the learning platform and to the library, and not necessarily all the other student facilities or full, because the learning platforms sit a little bit separately normally from the normal university site. And that works well as long as we make everything they need accessible. Then that can work well.
And was it Canvas that you used in Bergen?
It was Canvas in Bergen, yes.
Yeah. So
is that what you're using?
Yeah, we have Canvas, but I don't think all universities and colleges use Canvas.
Yeah,
so there can be differences.
Fortunately.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment to the first question that you had, Laurie? Because that was, what platform will you use next time? And that meant that we are going to find out maybe tomorrow.
Hopefully.
Yes, because we have some ideas what we would like to use, but we have to ask our partners what communication platforms are your students comfortable with, and maybe there will be a platform that we don't know about today. I'm thinking like a year ago I had no idea what Zoom was. Maybe there's something new out there that they use maybe in Portugal and Italy, who we're going to speak with.
Yes.
So I think it also has a lot to do what is possible with our partners.
And that is one of the core elements in COIL is the staff in different countries collaborating with each other, and therefore we didn't have the tasks when we started COIL, but we collaborated on and agreed on tasks during the planning.
And now I see we're already getting some tips here. WhatsApp is used a lot in Africa. I never heard it. I don't know what WhatsApp is, but maybe we have to check that out.
Yes.
Maybe that is the spring 2021 for us. WhatsApp. Yes.
WhatsApp and Facebook and all of these platforms are good for communicating. But if you're trying to share resources such as, lectures and reading ebooks and things like that, it's good to have one platform so that students come in and access that one platform, and that's where all the learning opportunities are. And then you can link anything, and with Canvas you can have Zoom embedded in it, so it also goes into their calendar. So that's a real plus.
But with all your experience, Laurie, do you think it's unprofessional to use Facebook in higher education?
I think it's okay depending on the level of the student. So if they're undergraduates, yes, it's fine. I would say when they get to postgraduate, most students are maybe using WhatsApp, or in fact, even 4 years ago, a lot of them prefer to use WhatsApp and not Facebook. Some of them weren't on Facebook, so then they don't have access. They don't want to go on Facebook, so they can't contact their.
I see there are some comments about WhatsApp in the
WhatsApp is
comment felt. I want to answer some of the questions that were in the chat.
Yes.
There was a question about if we had any funding for the COIL, and we didn't. Maybe we should ask for funding somewhere. We have talked about that because we realized that we will have to develop the concept, but we didn't have that in the first phase. And if we asked, there was a question about if we use Facebook and Messenger through the whole project, and we did use Facebook through the whole project. Some students used Messenger, and there were different kinds of conversation or dialogue between students and teachers that were beside of the project. The main project was on Facebook groups. And there was one more, there was a comment about COIL. Is that a pedagogical method, or is it a way to do internationalization only? And I don't know if I can answer, maybe Sigrid can answer it, but what I can answer is that it is a way to do internationalization at home.
It is described as a learning method, and it's originally from America, and I think it's quite old. It's not from the last years. It's been going on for many years, and that's why there's also existing some research about doing COIL projects.
And then it might also be that you can use connectivism. Do you know that, Laurie? They talk about nodes in a network and searching for different learning possibilities, searching for experts and documents and websites and finding information.
I've not heard of that.
But we have to dig a little bit into that, Sigrid.
Yeah, we'll share that. That would be interesting. On the links that have been shared for my handbook, and also the link to JISC, which is a UK kind of guidance for online learning. They're excellent resources, and there you'll find it really digs deep into the pedagogy and how the pedagogy works and why it works, and it's very much research based. Many years of research, actually. So they're really useful. I go back to them just to remind myself when I'm, creating of some of the things I have to consider for teaching. Do you have any questions?
Excuse me, Laurie, can I just interrupt with a question? So
yes.
If you can, you talked about live vivas. I'm not sure if that's correct pronunciated even. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, so maybe that's a UK word. So it's when we say to students that they will perhaps do an online exam, of course we don't know if it's them that are sitting the exam. We can't see them. So we also then I use the term threaten, or say that they are likely to have a viva is like where they have to be online like this. So we have one face-to-face interview on Zoom or Skype or whatever, and we'll question them about their answers. So it's a kind of a way to make sure that they are the ones that are answering the question, because they have no idea of what the questions are going to be. So yeah, it's so that they can't cheat, basically. And we don't necessarily have to do it. We may do it with some students, we may randomly do it, but we just have the kind of idea that it's going to happen, so that students are encouraged to answer their own exam questions. Hope that answers that question. Yeah.
So have you got any final comments? I think we have some minutes left. Or
there was a comment about Facebook and privacy. Can we ask you, Laurie, about how you usually handle it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we haven't used them as learning platforms. We've encouraged students to use them for themselves, but we haven't used them personally, and I think that's one of the reasons that we don't, apart from the fact that it means people have to have a Facebook account. When it comes to privacy, because we record all our live lectures, we make sure every student and every teacher has, or anyone who's going to be seen live on the screen, has signed an agreement that they're okay with that. And if they want to sign that, then they can mute themselves and not have a video. They can come on anonymously if they wish to. So we always give them the option. We only had one person we had 150 students in the summer school, and we had, I don't know how many teachers, maybe 25 or something over all the courses. And only one student said they didn't want to be seen or heard, but then changed their mind. And when they saw how valuable these resources were. And of course, these can be reused, these recorded sessions. So we make sure when they sign the agreement, it's for educational purposes, but not necessarily just this course.
I can say also one more thing about that, if we have just 1 minute. There were one or a few students in our project who didn't have a Facebook account because this student saw it as threatening about privacy, And we wanted all our students to be in the project. And what we did was that there were secret Facebook groups, so that there was not anyone couldn't go into the group. There were only the students who were supposed to be in the group and teachers. And I also advised some students to have a Facebook account only for this project, and that they could give another birthday and so on to keep their privacy if they didn't want to give it out. So, but they still presented themselves when they were in the Facebook groups, in the secret Facebook groups. So, but we have to discuss this.
I hope you can get a platform sorted out. That will be useful.
So I think we have to wrap it up for this session. So I guess it's a lot of things that we have to work out in the future on this. So, but thank you very much, Bente, Laurie, and Sigrun, for your contributions and insights. Very valuable. And I hope I did, at least, and I hope also the audience learned something new today. So yeah, if we haven't already done so, I think we will post Laurie's tools in the chat. Yes, and I can also say, I will say it in English, so because it's connected, that we will have a webinar on COIL on the 10th of December. So for those of you that are interested, please log on to our diku.no and find more information there. So thank you very much. Så det var siste sesjon på siste dag av årets Erasmus-seminar. Så vi håper at dere har fått litt informasjon som kan bidra med en god overgang til ny Erasmus-periode. Det er ikke siste gang Diku vil komme med informasjon om Erasmus 2021-2027. Vi kommer selvfølgelig tilbake med mer informasjon om programguiden og COIL så snart vi har mer. Så vi har jo da lært en del av å organisere et digitalt Erasmus-seminar, og vi ser helt klart fordeler med dette, men vi håper at Erasmusseminaret 2021 vil være i Trondheim, sånn som det var planlagt at årets Erasmusseminar skulle være. Og så bare før vi alle går og henter lunsj og sosialiserer oss, så må jeg bare plassere litt heder og ære der han skal være for at årets seminar ble dratt i land på en så god måte. Og det er vel egentlig ingen som vet helt hvor mye arbeid som ligger bak et sånt arrangement. Og i år har jobben unektelig vært spesiell, og det er mange som har gjort ting for første gang. Så denne fine gjengen her har stått på sent og tidlig, og jeg vil bare si godt jobbet, folkens. Og så må vi i samme slengen si at der kommer en evaluering, og at vi vil gjerne høre fra dere, sånn at vi kan bli enda bedre til neste gang. Så, til dagens viktigste post, nei, ikke viktigste, men kanskje i alle fall gøyeste, kanskje. Så for noe av det fineste med det tradisjonsrike Erasmusseminaret er de uformelle møtene og pratene vi har der. Sånn, og det er ikke, vi kan ikke møtes i år, men jeg tror vi kan få en fin sosial samling på plattformen Gatherly. Så vi møtes der klokken 12:30 om 11 minutter. Der vil det bli sosialt og halvfaglig opplegg frem til klokken